Hello everyone, my name's Tony Marson. I'm the theme lead for the person-centered complex care theme in the Northwest Coast ARC. I'm sorry that I can't be with you in person, but you might not have spotted that if I hadn't told you, given that this is a Zoom meeting and I'm obviously preparing a Zoom meeting recording. I'm going to give some highlights of what we've got planned in the person-centered complex care theme over the next few months, and you'll be hearing from other members of the theme during the course of this meeting. I'm going to share a brief presentation with you. And what this presentation highlights is the output from the theme meeting that we had at the last ArcFest just before the lockdown. And we had a couple of hours meeting where we did a lot of table work with partners and the public represented, and it was great to see that there was a high degree of convergence around a number of important themes that we need to pursue in terms of developing grants and also around projects for implementation. And what's really important, I think, is that we identify programs of work that we can deliver rather than lots of small projects, which I think we will struggle to bring cohesion across our patch if our focus is on a number of small projects. So one of the areas that was identified was around digital healthcare, and of course there's massive investment in terms of providing digital systems in hospitals, primary care and social care. And what's lacking often is an integration of those data, both for providing face-to-face and direct care, but also in pulling those data sources together for better research to tell us how well care is being provided, but also think about how we plan care and also do some more blue skies research. So there's lots that we can do in this realm of integrating data. And one recent example of that is our Civic Data Cooperative that's been funded in Liverpool. And I'm so sure that Sarah Rogers and the team will be telling you much more about their endeavours in terms of data and the health informatics theme within the Northwest Coast ARC. Linked to that was the need for care plans and the need for those care plans to be integrated into these digital health systems, and that's particularly important for people with complex needs for their care and people with multiple conditions, as we'll come on to in a couple of minutes. Also highlighted the need for individuals to actually have greater access to their records, but also to be the holder of those records and to have them available to them in a mobile and digital form. And also people need access to those records and the ability to input data into them, and often that's not made available. And also linked to that, and very relevant to what we're experiencing now, is the need for virtual and remote consultations, and particularly, for example, for specialist care, where people might need to travel long distances for what are relatively short appointments with specialists, and much of that can be provided virtually. But we're all experiencing probably virtual overload in this Zoom dominated meetings culture, and clearly there are pros and cons to virtual and digital consultations, and there's also a risk in terms of widening health inequalities, as those with the greatest need might health-wise might have least access to the digital means to access these consultations. The second area of priority was around multimorbidity, and this is where people have multiple medical conditions, be they physical or mental health problems. And there's much work that we need to do on our patch to understand the trends in multimorbidity, and to understand where are the hotspots and what are the particular multimorbidity problems that we need to tackle in the Northwest Coast. And linked to this are problems with accessibility and equity of care. And there are a number of vulnerable populations on our Northwest Coast footprint, and again we need to be able to better identify who they are and where they are. For example, those in care homes who've suffered so greatly during the COVID-19 crisis, as there's been a major problem with the coordination of efforts between health and social care. And we've also highlighted the problem with continuity of care, and that's clearly an important problem that needs to be addressed. The third area that was identified was around models of care, and models of care are changing, and we have integrated care systems which are being developed almost on what was previously a regional health authority footprint, and I guess what goes around comes around. But there are changes that are being made into the way that organisations are being brought together on both Mersey and Cheshire footprint and on the Lancashire and South Cumbria footprint. And we have primary care networks that are evolving. And we also need to think about care coordinators, and one thing that's become obvious in some of the work that I've been doing with NHS England around developing care pathways for people with neurological conditions is the primary importance of a care coordinator, and that single point of care for point of access for people with neurological and conditions, which is highly relevant to anyone with complex needs and multimorbidity. What I think is vital, as I said earlier, is that we identify those programs of work that we need to do. And I think there's a substantial risk if we focus on a plethora of small projects that don't bring together the whole. So I'm very keen that through the person-centered complex care theme that we identify programs of work that will unify our focus and bring together our partners and critical mass with a degree of unity. And of course, our aim is to tackle the health inequalities that we have on our patch, and it's really important that we really make an important difference. So we continue to have a massive challenge. I think the challenges are going to be greater, but the opportunity is also greater in this post-COVID era. Okay, and thank you for listening, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the meeting.